Welcome to today's explainer. Listen, I want you to start by picturing a very specific, honestly, kind of painful feeling. It's, say, a random Tuesday night, you're sitting on your couch, staring at your phone, just anxiously scrolling through your banking app, trying to figure out how on earth you're going to make rent next month. Look, if you've been there, you are absolutely not alone. So, our mission today is to take that exact stressful feeling and turn that financial fog into total clarity. We're going to break down exactly how to build seven-figure wealth on an average salary, and we're doing it completely without the hype. Because, when you're just struggling to cover basic everyday expenses, it's so incredibly easy to look at the math and feel like becoming a millionaire is this exclusive VIP club. It feels like it's strictly reserved for Wall Street insiders, trust fund kids, or lucky crypto bros. But when you actually dive into the data, the truth is far more boring. And honestly, because it's so boring, it's entirely achievable for a regular person. Seriously, you don't need to be a math genius or some financial wizard to make this happen. Okay, let's dive into this by looking at what is probably my favorite, absolutely fascinating story in the world of personal finance. Consider the incredible case of Ronald Reed. Now, Ronald lived in Vermont, and he wasn't a tech CEO, he wasn't an investment banker. Actually, he worked as a gas station attendant and a janitor for his entire life. Yet Ronald somehow built a massive fortune using a really simple, automated background system. I mean, just look at that final number. When Ronald passed away in 2014, he left behind over $8 million. $8 million. And get this, he had zero inheritance and he chased zero hype. He simply let a disciplined system run quietly in the background for decades. It's ultimate proof that building wealth isn't about your job title, right? It's entirely about your blueprint. So, how do we actually replicate Ronald's success? Well, here's our agenda for today. We're going to briskly walk through this exact architectural blueprint step by step. Locating your marker, building the engine room, skill stacking, the math of compounding, and finally, your ultimate wealth dashboard. Let's just get right into it. Section 1. Locating your marker, plugging the silent wealth killers. First off, we really need to look at exactly why over 50% of households barely cover their basic living costs. Spoiler alert, it isn't because people aren't trying or working hard. It's almost always because of invisible leaks that are just quietly draining their income. But before we talk about cutting costs, we have to talk about behavioral psychology. You have to understand that lifestyle creep is a proven psychological phenomenon. It is not a personal moral failure. It's actually called the Diderot effect, named after a philosopher way back in 1772. Here's how it works. The moment you acquire a single new luxury, say moving into a much nicer apartment, it creates this crazy psychological spiral. Suddenly, your perfectly fine old couch looks terrible in the new place, so you buy a new couch. Then, oh wait, the rug doesn't match. It literally forces you to keep buying surrounding items just to match your new baseline. Acknowledging this mental trap is step number 1 to actually keeping your money. So the crucial point here is that true wealth is built by aggressively plugging these silent killers that literally eat your future freedom alive every 30 days. We're talking about depreciating debt, like massive car loans, credit card traps hitting you with 20% or even higher interest rates, subscription creep, where you wake up and realize you're somehow paying for 5 different streaming services you don't even watch, and of course, convenience drains, like habitually using those daily food delivery apps. Think about it. You absolutely cannot build a wealth machine if your financial fuel tank has a massive hole right in the bottom. To put this into perspective, $700 to $800. That is the shocking average monthly car payment for a new vehicle in a lot of regions today. Taking on a high-interest loan for a depreciating asset, meaning an asset that literally drops in value the absolute second you drive it off the lot, is pure, unfiltered, negative compounding. Guys, it is wealth destruction completely disguised as a status symbol. Moving on to Section 2, the engine room, building the shock absorber and automating flow. Honestly, it is time to remove willpower entirely from the equation. Because let's face it, relying on sheer willpower to save whatever happens to be left over at the end of the month fails every single time. Before you ever invest a single dime into the stock market, you absolutely must build this liquid, high-yield shield. Why? So that when those unexpected life bumps hit, like a surprise medical bill or a blown tire, they don't force you to sell your investments at a market bottom or panic and rely on high-interest credit cards. If you have a stable, salaried corporate job, save a 3-month buffer. But if you're a freelancer or a business owner dealing with variable income, you need a 6-month buffer. Period. This is your completely non-negotiable shock absorber. Now, check out this donut chart, because this right here is the secret sauce for your cash flow.
The exact moment your paycheck lands, it should automatically split into this exact ratio without you lifting a single finger. 40% goes to essential bills, 20% goes straight to your emergency shield, which, by the way, automatically redirects to your investments once that shield is fully funded. And the final 40% is entirely guilt-free for everyday life. And hey, real quick, if you just had a little aha moment seeing this automation system mapped out like this, take just a second to hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps our community grow, and it lets me know you're getting some real value out of this explainer.
All right, on to section 3, skill stacking, the income multiplier. Remember, playing defense by cutting costs has a physical floor, but playing offense with your income has absolutely no ceiling. So we need to accelerate your earning power to really pour gasoline on this whole machine. Instead of just grinding for 20 years in one highly saturated field trying to be the absolute best, you want to use the concept of skill stacking. Look, it is brutally hard to be in the top 1% of, say, video editors. But if you combine 3 distinct skills, like say you become top 25% in video production, top 25% in content strategy, and top 25% in financial literacy, you suddenly reach this elite intersection where your competition basically drops to 0. You become entirely irreplaceable. And this comparison explains exactly why most secondary incomes and standard side hustles end up failing. People try to sell their time at unscalable hourly rates in super saturated markets. The real winners, though, they leverage their unique skill stack for specialized services. And what if you're in the corporate world? Well, the data shows that strategically switching corporate jobs every 2 to 4 years often yields a 10 to 20% salary bump, whereas internal loyalty raises, they barely even keep up with inflation nowadays. So leverage your stack and don't be afraid to make a move. Which brings us to section 4, the math of compounding. Let time do the heavy lifting. Once your leaks are plugged and your shield is full, broad market index funds are how you let your long-term assets do the heavy lifting. Because keeping your money in a traditional bank savings account just means inflation is slowly eroding it away. So let's look at the pure, undeniable math of time versus money. In scenario A, you start with $10,000 and add $400 a month for 30 years. You end up with $1.1 million. Hey, that's great. But look brilliantly at scenario B. You start with half the money, just $5,000, and contribute only $200 a month, but you do it for 40 years. Scenario B yields $400,000 more wealth, ending at $1.5 million, despite you putting in almost $50,000 less out-of-pocket cash. How? Literally just because they started a decade earlier. It's like magic, but it's just math. The old saying is absolutely true. Time in the market beats timing the market every single time. And the way you execute this flawlessly is through dollar cost averaging, or DCA. You just automate your investments with fixed monthly amounts, completely ignoring whatever chaotic news headlines are going on. The market is booming? Great, you buy. The market is crashing? Awesome, you buy. Simply removing human emotion and panic from your investing strategy is, without a doubt, your ultimate superpower. Finally, Section 5, the Wealth Dashboard, your actionable takeaways. Let's really redefine what we are actually building toward here. Because real wealth isn't about looking rich with expensive toys, exotic cars, or luxury watches tailored for social media feeds. That's just spending money. Real wealth is entirely invisible. It is the autonomy and the absolute freedom to control your own schedule. So here is your ultimate, screenshot-worthy dashboard summarizing this entire zero-hype framework to build 7-figure wealth. 1. Acknowledge and stop the Diderot effect. Do not let lifestyle creep steal your hard-earned gains. 2. Aggressively plug those silent wealth killers, like depreciating car debt. 3. Fully fund that 3 to 6 month shock-absorbing shield. 4. Automate the 40-20-40 money flow so your willpower isn't even required. And 5. Stack your skills to boost your income and consistently dollar-cost average into the market. At the end of the day, building wealth on an average salary isn't some wild fantasy. It's really just a formula. So my question for you today is this. Which stage of the money map are you focusing on right now? Let me know down in the comments whether you're currently plugging leaks, building your shield, or stacking your skills to increase your income. I honestly love reading through your journeys in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to stay curious until we meet again.